Lead us off, Shane, on the New Orleans Saints, because you're big on the Saints, or unless things have changed since you made your bold prediction that they would win the division. Are you still as confident, and what do they need to do in the draft to make that prediction a reality?
Oh, I'm still confident in these New Orleans Saints because I look around elsewhere in the division and they don't fill me with confidence as much. So why not really back what the Saints are doing and how they really built in to the season at the end last year in terms of momentum they have. But I mean, if there's one thing they need to fix it quickly. Is they need to look at their quarterback and give them somebody to throw the ball to. Let's look at the roster that they have now. Like they brought in Jalen Polk from the Patriots, who didn't light it up in New England. You look elsewhere. Yes, they got Chris Olave, but they've lost Raheed Shaheed. Yes, they brought in Noah Fant, and it's great to have Travis Etienne. Is Etienne? Am I saying that right?
Etienne.
Trying to say it au français, but probably makes it even more wrong again.
Almost as good as your Cork accent.
Oh, my Cork accent is terrible, but I don't think I'm ever allowed down there after taking off Ciaran and that time. He hasn't, I won't do it again. I was going to do it again. I won't do it again. It's not as fun. Me and him still have to have a row about the Chiefs anyway, so I can bring it out then. Back on the Saints, they made a move in the run game. I think they've made small additions, but never a big improvement in the pass game. I don't think their offensive line is as in dire need as elsewhere. Yes, cornerback and edge would be nice improvements they can make further in the draft. But I think first and foremost, especially because they have the luxury of being able to pick 8th overall, receiver. Get the star, as much star power in as you can get it. Try give that offense a real bit of juice. So yeah, I still think, look, generally speaking, I'm still confident in what the Saints have going in the future. I know there's some, a lot of mock drafts have them going for the likes of Caleb Downs and just trying to, again, pick whoever the best players off the board and picking an 8. But I still think, fundamentally, fundamental receiver has to be an area that they have to improve. Receiver or tight ends. Somebody does this to help that pass game, because Shough, I think, has proven himself to be able to manage games better, to be able to manage situations better. You have to kind of trust him now and give him a guy to work with outside Chris Olave, and I think that's where they should be going.
Well, you can give him a guy to work with, Craig, or you can bolster that defense, which will also, although not directly, but will help Tyler Shough. And a lot of mock drafts have either Caleb Downs, as Shane mentioned, or Ruben Bain going to the Saints with the number 8 pick. It'd be kind of fun to see both Akeem Messidor and Ruben Bain in the same division, the two teammates from the U, two elite pass rushers in college.
Yeah, and edges where I have their biggest need as well. They've got to replace Cam Jordan, who has consistently delivered for 15 years. Take nothing away from the guy. 15 years is a long old time to be at one place, and there's been no drop off. And that's the reason that he's not back with the Saints, is because he still believes he can deliver, and he's not having that hometown discount. And
anymore. Putting out one of the better player podcasts, on the bar there really is not high. I'm damning him with saying praise there. It is actually a good podcast.
It is indeed. So they have the 8th overall pick, and it could be a time to get a game wrecker there. If Ruben Bain or Arvell Reese or David Bailey fall, you snap him up. You really do, because they do have Chase Young, and Chase Young has weirdly slowly gotten better over the last few seasons and actually put some consistent pressure on the table. But did he do that because he had a player like Cam Jordan on the other side also doing the same? And does he play much better when he has that elite pass rusher on the opposite side to him? Obviously, they are all potentially going to have their pick of the wide receivers as well. Carnell Tate seems to be mocked to them an inordinate amount of times, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that would be a great thing for the Saints. They could always go with Jordan Tyson as well at that point, or they could fall in love with Makai Lemon like a lot of other teams have, and he could be moving up board. So it is still early on. With a few weeks to go, there's going to be a lot of moving and shaking with a lot of these sort of positions where there are clustered players together. But Shane's right. Olave, they had Juwan Johnson who caught, a decent amount of yards, and then there's just a huge drop off to Rashid Shaheed, who left halfway through the season. So just shows how bad that was. But there are other areas. I think guard they need to look at some point. Their offensive line is not great. That would be another way to stop Shough getting all shook up. But we'll go from there.
Mickey Loomis seems to be allergic, Ciaran Boyle, to picking offensive linemen. Like pretty much every one he's picked there has absolutely stunk out the joint. Like they don't seem to have had any joy. Mickey Loomis has kicked the can down the road and not done an awful lot in the draft to begin with. But that's one area where they're persistently and consistently indicted for their lack of activity and their lack of success.
Yeah, we could do a whole separate show on how Mickey Loomis is still in a job down there. I mean, it's amazing how I think he's been there 24 years. It's amazing how he's been able to parlay one Super Bowl into 24 years of job security. But anyway, that's another thing. It's a bit of a conundrum, this Saints team. I mean, on the one hand, they finished fairly strong. They finished 4-1. Tyler Shough emerges as a decent candidate at quarterback. I'm still very much on the fence about him. I think he kind of lucked into to a couple of wins at the end, and might have been helped with some victories by a certain kicker from County Down. But
you're playing my tune now, because like for all of the talking up of the Saints, no disrespect, Shane. Yeah, they're 6-11, and in the NFC South, that put them just 2 games out of winning the division. But it is still the NFC South, and they did kind of jam their way into a couple of victories, and we didn't expect much of them, and they delivered slightly more than was expected. But I wouldn't be kind of going 2 feet into the Saints are well ahead of schedule and they'll contend this year. We'll see.
Yeah, they backdoored into wins against the Bucs towards the end when the Bucs were god awful, and they beat the Panthers on one of those. They happened to get them on the Panthers win-loss line. They picked them up on a loss on an L week. Shough, the thing with him is the sample size is too small. I mean, he had 9 games. Yeah, he completed 67.5% of his passes, 10 touchdowns, but 6 interceptions. So it's too much, or it's too small of a sample size for me to get too excited. A lot of people are anointing him as this phenomenal talent. Drew Brees is heaping praise on him. It's way too early on that. This team is in what I say, the conundrum is the offense is god awful, or at least it was before the draft. The defense, strangely enough, was really, really good. I mean, top 10 in total defense. They were 4th in passing D, and they were 10 in red zone D. And we talked about Cam Jordan. I mean, we're not talking enough about Brian Bresee. Craig was right about Chase Young. He had a really good season last year. Justin Reed, they picked up from the Chiefs. So quietly, they did work in that defensive side. I mean, they did put a lot of teams to the sword. Especially with a lot of picks they had. But the offense is brutal. I mean, that wide receiver room, if you look at it right now, other than Chris Olave, Mason Tipton, Devon Vele, I mean, that's not exactly going to sell tickets at the Superdome. So the wide receiver, to me, I mean, it's all about offense, really. They were dead last in red zone offense. Now, when a stat is thrown like that, there's only one you're going to look, and it's most likely wide receiver. I think the O-line, for as much as we kind of trashed it, they do have Fuaga with a decent season at tackle. Kelvin Banks too, the recent draft pick. He's getting better. They picked up Edwards from the Bills. So there's talent there to build around. I'm sure they're going to address it in the draft too. But for me, it's got to be wide receiver, or possibly a pass catching tight end, like we talked about with the 8th pick. Maybe Kenyon Sadiq will be somebody to look at, because again, this is a copycat league. Teams look at what worked out for teams last year. What worked out last year? Colson Loveland caught fire. Tyler Warren caught fire. Oh, let's see what the tight end room is about.
Jr. caught
Harold
fire.
Fannin Jr.
3 great tight ends in the first round.
Exactly. So, I mean, teams are always looking to see what worked for other teams. And I think that Sadiq will definitely be somebody that they'll be looking at. Not a great blocker, but these days, a lot of teams are just looking for a pass catching tight end. It's that the blocking seems to be secondary these days. But again, like Craig said, probably somebody like Carnell Tate. But again, I would not be surprised if they went Bailey with that 8th pick. But if I'm there, I got to look at the wide receiver room and the paucity of talent there, and say we've got to address this. We've got to give, if not our line, we've got to give this quarterback at least some sort of weapon to throw to. We saw what happened with Cam Ward in Tennessee when he had nobody really to throw to. It's critical for a quarterback in that first year or two that they've got to have somebody they can rely on, somebody that can just even just to check down to. I'd be looking at wide receiver or at least tight end for the Saints.
Right, the Saints, who once felt the need for Shaheed, we'll see whether they freak for Sadiq in just over 3 weeks' time.